Stone's Justice's Manual, section 1382. Stone's Justice's Manual is one of those. It comes in 3 massive tomes and they carry it into court. This defines the jurisdiction of a magistrate's court. A, B, C and D. If you look in, they're all offences. Summary offence, offence committed, summary offence, indictable offence and so on. Now it's magistrates' court that hear council tax liability hearings. Now a liability hearing is where they are trying to assess whether you are liable to pay the council tax. No offence has been committed. If they decide that you are not liable, oh boy, that's very rare, but supposing you've got council tax benefit. So you're not liable to pay the council tax. And, you know, that doesn't stop the council from summoning you. You can tell them, I've got council tax benefit. They can still summons you. In fact, one of the first things that we got involved in a couple of years ago was where somebody was on council tax benefit and he was still being summoned to pay his council tax. He did go into court and point that out, and they said, oh no, well, you don't pay the council tax, you're not liable. And he walked out and that was it. He hadn't committed any offence. If they find you liable, which is general, you still haven't committed an offence because you could then just pay it. Then you wouldn't have committed any offence at all. Only if they find you liable and then you don't pay it, then, in their eyes, there's an offence. But at the liability hearing, there's no offence. So magistrates' courts don't even have jurisdiction to hear liability hearings. What are magistrates anyway? They're a cost-cutting attempt to provide the functionality of a grand jury and to dispense so-called justice on the cheap and not cheerful. But grand juries do not decide the outcome. They only decide whether or not a prima facie case has been made such that a full trial is warranted. That's what a grand jury does. It doesn't operate in a court. A grand jury can be like 20 to 30 people who are a group of people who do the job of voluntarily of receiving complaints with powers to demand any information, so that they can look at the complaint and say whether or not there's a case to be made. It's something that the Crown Prosecution Service tend to have taken over. Well, it's now split between magistrates and the CPS. Because grand juries were abolished in 1931. I say bring them back. If a full trial is warranted at the trial, the jury, the jury of 12, would decide the outcome, guilty or not guilty, as still happens today. Magistrates attempt to be a jury of 3, which is nothing like good enough for even basic justice, and simply provides the opportunity for up to 3 would-be tyrants to perform their sadistic pleasures. And they do like doing it. You are not alone. What have we got here? We've got a few emails. It's hard to read, so I'll just point out the salient things. A guy called Bob, who called himself John for anonymity, wrote to the Magistrates Association and he said, do magistrates take an oath? Wrong question. We've already been through that, but that was the question he asked. And someone called right at the top called Leora Ronell wrote back saying, yes, they do, and she quoted the oath. And she copied a colleague called Barbara Tetty. Now, by accident or by design, we don't know, but in her response to John or Bob or whatever he is called, she included a little bit of internal email, which is this bit down the bottom, which is from Barbara Tetty, who was copied on the eventual reply. What happened is Leonora Ronell copied this question that she'd received from John to Barbara Tetty, who is a records administrator. And Barbara Tetty replies, and another ... That's not the first time they've been asked that question, and it's getting regular. They've had it quite a few times. So you're not alone. Right, now we've got to court procedure based on Birkenhead and Hereford, etc. Okay, I suppose I'd better explain Birkenhead. Was there, I mean, I know obviously Vince was there, and I think some others were there as well. I mean, you were there, weren't you, and so on. How many people were at Birkenhead? Okay, fine. So now, how many of you know about Birkenhead, by the way? Oh, okay, good. Right, so you've seen the YouTubes when they were still up? Okay, fine. What happened there was a great crowd and a lot of furore in the court in terms of noise and so on. And a few people, a couple were arrested, although they shouldn't have been, and so on. Fundamentally, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, in Birkenhead, what was it, about 4 weeks ago? It was the 28th of March, wasn't it? The judge was threatened with arrest. Well, he was arrested, actually, a citizen's arrest. And then the police rescued him. The police rescued the judge, which was wrong of them. Because what they did was they made an instant decision that the judge was obviously innocent because he was a judge. And instead of carrying through the citizen's arrest by taking the judge into safe custody and processing the charges against the judge, they actually arrested the people who were trying to arrest the judge. And the saga of that still goes on. But the point is that in rescuing the judge, what the police did is they made themselves accomplices to any corruption that the judge was involved in actual fact, which was rather silly of them. But they'll find out in the future, I think. Well, we hope anyway. But the point is that the mistake they made, the fundamental mistake they made, was to judge the judge to be innocent. And that's a fundamental mistake for the very simple reason it's not the policeman's job to judge people's guilt or innocence. The policeman's job is to arrest people, caution them, and charge them, and that's it. Because innocence and guilt is the function of courts, and only the function of courts. It is not the function of the police, and never has been. So they were wrong not to assist the arrest. If someone is not called a judge, a politician or a magistrate, then they're perfectly happy to feel their collar, arrest them, charge them, and arrest them, caution them, and charge them. It's just that if the person is called judge, magistrate or politician, they just wet themselves. Oh no, can't do it to him. But that's their mentality. But it is changing. It is changing. Because when we come to Hereford, not the Monday just gone, but the Monday before, was it the 4th of April? We instituted my plan, not Roger Hayes' plan. And this is my plan. And we went into court, magistrates' court, on that Monday, a small group of us, no furore, no panic, no black umbrellas, we just went in. But we knew what we were going to do, and we did it. And we told the magistrates if they did not dismiss the case, they would be arrested. And they dismissed the case. There were 2 police in court, and we got them to agree, because it was what I've just explained to you was explained to them very carefully and very quietly. And we got them to agree that if the arrest was was to happen, they would do it, because that would be their job. The procedure we used was this one, more or less. We were actually, we did have a certain amount of how can I put it, there were certain bonus things involved, and I don't really know if I can spend the time to explain all that, but we used this procedure. A small, dedicated, disciplined, peaceful group, 10 or so. There were actually 9 of us in Hereford. Absolutely no more than 20. You don't want a crowd. One is a negotiator. That's my term. Someone who understands the situation inside out and is prepared to negotiate with the policyman. It could be whoever is actually summoned, or it could be one of the other people. No one else in the group ever speaks, except inadvertently we all went no at one point in Hereford. It was just like, no! That was it. We then realised, no, we shouldn't have spoken. But they always do whatever the negotiator requests, quietly, calmly, peacefully, never giving the police any opportunity to grab and handcuff and all that rubbish. When the judge or magistrates are told they are under citizen's arrest for not acknowledging their oath of office, are you acting under your oath of office? Oh, I've been a judge for 12 years. No, that's not the question. Are you acting under your oath of office at this time? This is a properly convened court. No, that's not the question. Are you acting under your oath of office at this moment in time? Yes or no? I don't think you have the right to ask me that question. Right, that's it. You're under arrest. Now, policeman, take that gentleman into safe custody. We will come down to the station. We will make the appropriate statements. The charge is contempt of court and treason and abuse of process. The negotiator explains the position to the policeman. He or she explains it is not their job to decide that the judge or the magistrates are innocent and thus rescue them, but to carry through the arrest, take statements from everyone and let a future court decide on the guilt or innocence. In other words, their standard procedure, because that's the way the law works. It's what they do every day. Courts always decide on guilt of innocence, not policymen. The negotiator, if he doesn't get the 2 police to do it, will ask them to call a superior, sergeant and inspector. The sergeant or the inspector, they will do that. It's easy enough. They get on the radio. Sergeant or the inspector arrives. You get the sergeant first. You go through it with the sergeant. No, he can't make the decision. Right, get an inspector. No, he can't get it. I want to speak to the chief constable then. Whatever, Just take it as high. Keep going as high as you can. The object being to either get the judge arrested or to waste as much time as possible. If, after all negotiation has been exhausted, the policymen will still not do their job, everyone leaves peacefully. The negotiator says, OK, right, well, they're not going to do it, so will you all please leave peacefully and quietly? Everybody gets up and leaves. Now, the other people are there just to observe and to be prepared to make the statements on what they saw. That's the point of them, and also obviously moral support and all that. The amount of time this will take will leave the court and the policemen in the position of not wanting it to happen regularly. My proposal is to get yourself together in small groups and do that as often as you possibly can, all over the country. There is nothing to stop you. That is the way forward.